Whenever you draw something that you plan to use over again, like a symbol for example, you should define it as a block. In this lesson you will define a number of common plumbing symbols as blocks. You will be replicating this diagram on the right, but first you need to define the symbols used in the diagram as blocks. The diagram on the left is drawn with individual objects like lines and arcs. This isn't a good practice. We have a lot of repeated symbols here. If we defined them as blocks and then inserted them, we would have much more control over the drawing, because if we then later decided we wanted to change the representation of a particular symbol, we could change it in one place, and it would update automatically everywhere it was used. Let's go ahead and define these objects down here as individual blocks. At this point, we have drawings made of individual objects. Let's select all of these objects, but we won't select the objects in this hand pump. We'll leave those alone for now. Then go up here and open the Layer drop-down and select Layer 0. Press Escape to deselect. It's a good practice to define your blocks with the geometry on Layer 0, because this way the geometry will inherit the properties of the layer that it's inserted on. I'm leaving this hand pump symbol alone to show you what happens if we don't do this, and we leave this object set to the plumbing layer. So let's go ahead and define each symbol as a block. Click the Create Block tool here on the block panel. Every block has a name. This block here is called a globe valve, so I'll type that in. Every block has a base point. I'll pick that point by clicking this button, and then I'll click this midpoint over here. The base point should have some relationship to other geometry in your drawing. A pipe would come into the symbol here, and it would exit over here, so a good base point would be on either side. I also need to select the objects which are part of the block, and you can do that by clicking this button. And then go ahead and make an enclosing window around the objects and press Enter. You get verification that you've selected objects here in this little thumbnail. You can choose what you want to do with the objects that are used to define the block, and I'll choose to delete these objects. Let's leave the block unit set to inches to match the architectural units that we're using in this drawing, and click OK. The objects disappear, but rest assured, they're not gone. They've become part of the drawing database, and we'll call on them later. Here, I'll pre-select these objects, and then I'll click this button to create a block. Notice that the preview image already shows up with the pre-selected objects, so I don't have to click this button and select them manually. This symbol is a T. Type capital T for the block name. We will have to pick the point that represents the base point for the block, and that could be here, here, or here, where the pipes would enter the T. It doesn't really matter. I'll click the left side, and then OK. Once again, I'll select these objects, and this time I'll just type B spacebar to execute the block command. This symbol is an L, so I'll type that in here. Then pick a point for the base point, and that could be here or here. I'll choose down here, and then OK. Once again, select, type B, enter. This is a union. It needs a base point, either here or down here. I'll click down here, and then OK. Again, select, type B, enter. This is a check valve. Select a base point. Could be here, or it could be here where the pipe enters and exits the valve. I'll click this left side. Then OK. Now for this last one, I'll click Create Block, give it the name Hand Pump, pick a point, and that could be either here or down below. I'll choose down below. And then if I click OK, it's going to warn me, wait, no objects have been selected for the block. What do you want to do? Well, of course, I want to select the objects. I forgot, so I'm glad it asks me. I'll select these objects, press Enter, and then OK. Now these blocks are part of this particular drawing, but we don't see them on the screen anymore. They're part of the drawing database. Save your work as Plumbing 2. You've learned how to define blocks, specify their base points, and choose block units. You've also learned to change block geometry to layer 0 prior to defining this geometry as a block.